Is Annette Parker, and I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself. I serve as the president of South Central College in South Central Minnesota, part of the Minnesota State System of Colleges and Universities. Before I introduce the other panelists, I'd like to say that Nick Pinchuk did an amazing job again, and I am a supporter, Nick. And as a former CTE student myself, Skills USA champion, I support. So that was just outstanding. It makes us really proud to be Americans every time I hear Nick speak. I have an amazing panel here with me today that we're going to talk about the role of higher education and career readiness. And I'm going to have each one of them briefly introduce themselves. First of all, Noah Brown, Senior Advisor of the Office of Career and Technical Education and Adult Education. Robert Page, the Assistant Secretary of Career Education for the Massachusetts system. And then Tammy Reichelt, the Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs at the American Association of Community Colleges. And so Noah, if you could just take a second, maybe, and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Annette, and it's great to see you and my colleagues, and appreciate the invitation to participate today. As Annette mentioned, I'm the Senior Advisor with the Office of Career and Technical Education in the U.S. Department of Education. We administer two large programs here at the department. One is the Perkins program, and the other is Title II of the WIOA legislation, principally focusing on adult education and pathways. Prior to coming to the department in November, I was the president and CEO of the Association of Community College Trustees for 16 years and with the organization for over 25. So I'm pretty familiar with the world of community and technical colleges, and I think also with our topic today. So I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Noah. If you hadn't mentioned your prior career, I was certainly going to ask. Bob LePage, or Robert LePage, you and I have went way back too. Could you take a moment and introduce yourself?
Bob LePage, Assistant Secretary for Career Education here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I work within the Executive Office of Education, providing guidance and support for my colleagues in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, as well as our Department of Higher Education system. And as well, in my role, I work extensively with what we call our Workforce Skills Cabinet, which is the linkages to the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development and planning linkages to economic development. And prior to that, I've been in the community college world for too long to admit to. How about if we just say it that way, Annette?
Yeah. Back to the Kentucky days.
Yes.
And last but not least, Tammy Reichelt, Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs at AACC. Tammy.
Good afternoon, Dr. Parker. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Tammy Reichelt. I'm the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at AACC here in Washington, D.C. And I work collaboratively with our Workforce and Economic Development unit as well. Those two units were combined at the association earlier this year, so we work very closely together. And within both of those units, we have the NSF ATE work. We work with the Community College Innovation Challenge. And so we do a lot of work around career technical education, as well as our guided pathways. And to wrap all of that up, we're very focused on diversity, equity, inclusion in all aspects of the work that we're doing at the association. And we represent the nation's community colleges.
Thank you. I think we have an amazing panel here. I have some questions I'd like to ask the panel. And I have also pulled a couple of questions out of the Q&A that if we have time, I'll certainly answer or get my my esteemed panel to answer. And so my first question is, a lot of focus has been put on better preparation in secondary education to connect planning for post-secondary options as part of career development. So how do higher education institutions, both 2-year and 4-year schools, support planning for the right post-secondary fit with high school students? And Bob, I think I'll start off with you if you don't mind.
Sure. You know, for us, I think on our journey, particularly in the last 7 or 8 years here in the Commonwealth, has really been on creating a culture of a shared experience for that student and ensuring that our higher ed partners are much more actively engaged on a regional basis through WIOA planning and then in implementation with high school. And so that the information that's available to parents and students is more comprehensive, demystified, better aligned to what those career opportunities are. And as we've built out things like our pathways expansion, requiring demonstrated and consistent post-secondary linkages. It has been a journey and experience to find out in many communities, while there's awareness of each other, that deep collaborative relationship wasn't there, whether that's curriculum alignment, whether that's college and career alignment, whether that's even clarity or understanding when things change at one institution for admissions policies or in ways that schools are structured. An example would be a college that shifted to a meta major, which is a great strategy, but high school's not really understanding what that meant or how it applied to them. So at the heart of it is better partnering and better communication, I think, is the key to all of it, and consistency in that.
Thank you. Noah, I'm kind of going to go a little bit of different direction for you around federal policy. How can federal policy help us better connect these transitions from high school graduation to higher education?
Yeah, thank you. Well, let me just say at the onset that this administration is very much focused on and supportive of building stronger linkages between high schools, colleges, and careers. I can tell you that we spend a lot of time talking about this in the department and the administration, and a lot of time thinking about it. In fact, I just left a program where I was hearing from some incredible work in the state of Illinois, where they've created a very comprehensive connected system. And so we're very committed to advancing that work and supporting that work. For example, the president recently proposed in the FY23 budget some significant increases and shifting of focus around this issue of connecting high schools, colleges, and careers. We're very excited about a proposal, a $200 million proposal for the Career Connected High School grant program, which we see as a kind of a demonstration and an expansion of the best work that we understand is out there, and try to support at least 30 different programs that are really making those connections and showing great results. So we're very excited about that. Additionally, we are requesting additional monies for our adult education national programs, including a $15 million program for a college bridge initiative. Again, really trying to support the innovation and the work that is being done to connect and break down those artificial silos between high schools, colleges, and careers. And then likewise, big increases in the career technical education programs to really ramp up the investment in career pathways and career and technical education. So we're very focused on this. I will also tell you, based on other things I'm involved with, for example, I serve on something called the Telecommunications Working Interagency Group, affectionately known as TWIG. This is a group under the auspices of the FCC that right now is looking at all of the federal workforce capabilities related to standing up the $65 billion investment that this administration has made in 5G and broadband deployment. And let me just say to my community and technical college friends, you're front and center in this work potentially. And the work that you do in having high school to college to career connections, particularly in workforce development and training, are going to be key, not only in the broadband deployment, but also in sustaining that system, particularly in rural and underserved areas. So I could go on, but all of this is to say, and I hope you get from this, that we're very much focused on these questions and what we can do at the federal government in order to support and really to ferment increased growth, opportunity, innovation in those areas.
Thank you, Noah. I think I'm going to come back to you with another question around that in just a few minutes. But first, I want to go to Tammy. And before I do that, I want to share that last week we had the best day of the year at South Central College. We had our commencement, and I had 10 high school kids graduate with their associate degrees that are going to be graduating from their high schools early next month. And more opportunities like that. It was just so exciting to see those kids doing that, you know, having that opportunity. And when you think about the debt, Tammy, what is going on with the American Association of Community Colleges and really helping your member institutions think of these types of partnerships? I know you mentioned the NSF ATE. So can you talk about that space with the American Association of Community Colleges?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Parker. So at the national level, or what we're doing at AACC, we've been working, we've had the NSF Advanced Technological Education Grant for, I think we're on our 26th year. So I mean, that's just one component of something that we've been doing at the association, really around the CTE work. But to expand upon that, we've also, you know, within the workforce and economic development side of the association, have been very focused on working with business and industry around promoting CTE, college and career readiness, to our community colleges and our members. So a couple of examples that we've got most recently working is we've been working with the Metallica Scholars Foundation, with Metallica, the rock band, and they're really focused on CTE education and getting high school students involved in CTE programming. We've had some foundation work with the U.S. Chambers, working also with the reskilling network, and most recently with our artificial intelligence incubator. So within the association, we're providing our colleges with a lot of different opportunities to kind of promote CTE programming, career readiness, and college readiness. But we're also seeing within the sector that the narrative is starting to change on our campuses and kind of going away from are we preparing our students in the K-12 sector to be college ready, and transitioning that into our campuses, reimagining their selves to be more student ready, because we've got the community college sector, you know, serves the highest population of first generation and some non-traditional students as well. So we're really seeing that narrative change on our campuses away from college ready and into our campuses being student ready. And I think by having that transition in the field, we're getting that message back down into the K-12 sector and really able to promote career readiness within.
Okay, so I'm gonna change the question. No, I'm coming back to you right now. You know, you mentioned something that was really dear to my heart. You mentioned high school to college to career. And ironically, we have a program here at South Central. It's our second year, called High School to College to Career, H2C, with really our chamber president being our convener, with our two hospitals here, Mayo and Alina. And the high school kids are getting 36 college credits before they leave high school. It's a phenomenal program, but it's not always easy to replicate that, because the way you do post-secondary options, at least here in the state of Minnesota, you know, it's complicated. And, you know, earlier we were talking about braided funding. And so is the government, the federal government, your office, Noah, looking at how we could better braid those funds to support things like post-secondary education options?
Well, yeah, we obviously are very intensely interested in the high school to college pipeline. You know, as I do, Annette, that the increase in dual enrollment around the country has just been phenomenal. And so the work is proceeding. That's the good news. But yes, there are financial issues involved in terms of how that is funded. You know, we have some limits, obviously, here at the federal level. A lot of the money that we have goes out to states. States then decide how to fund that. But we do have the megaphone, if you like. We can give a shout out to things that we think are working well and kind of encourage and nudge states and localities to look at those kinds of programs and to ask the question, you know, what might they do to move that forward? We are doing that work. I've been convening a number of listening sessions with community college presidents, and we have talked about dual enrollment, career transition programs. And so there is a tremendous amount of good work going out there. And as you know, I think the presidents that I have talked to in the last couple of years, most of them, when they look at what the challenges are in their communities and where the workforce needs really are, and how we move young people successfully through high school to graduation, into college and into good paying careers, it's all about pathways and creating seamless pathways and articulation, as well as transfer. We still have issues with transfer here in the 21st century. And too many students are having to retake too many credit hours, which is not only an expense for the students, but frankly, it's an expense to the taxpayer. So yes, we are focused a lot on these, and we're looking at how we can support the movement in these areas to the extent that we're able to.
Yes, thank you, Noah. So Bob, I'm coming back to you now. He mentioned how they send money to the states. What's going on in Massachusetts?
Lots going on in Massachusetts. So, you know, I agree with Noah's observation of, you know, state support and federal support. So we certainly have used our Perkins dollars more strategically, I think, in the last 5 to 7 years. And we have been more intentional in our design, program design, and, you know, been forward thinking about how things like our early college strategy and what we call innovation pathways, which are sector-based pathways, could be much more intentional and be structured to really include all of the elements that you've heard today, that you heard from Brian and others, that are pathways that require work-based learning, clear linkages to post-secondary, designed based on labor market information, are aligned to showing that there's articulation of industry-related credentials, for example, and have documented industry and employer partners. So here in the Commonwealth, we have braided resources. I thought it was interesting here you use that term, and use state funds to build out that system. We've gone from roughly 20% of our students involved primarily in vocational education. Our programs are 900-hour immersive high school vocational education, to launching early college and innovation pathways with a goal that 50% of all students by 2028 will be enrolled in some type of pathway program, and that all of our high schools in the Commonwealth will have adopted and provided deep professional development for college and career advising, which we call MyCap. We've used state resources, we've used federal resources, and we've used philanthropic resources. We were fortunate early on to be supported through the JP Morgan New Skills for Youth initiative, and then built other resources around it. And we are hopeful through the legislative process that we will get to deeper sustainable funding based on enrollment increments, because we braid now higher ed dollars and secondary dollars. So our ultimate goal is, how do we have an integrated data system so that we can pay on a per student basis for both the college courses, but then the cost of running these pathway programs.
That's
So
awesome.
we are full in. Yeah,
Awesome. I heard that great word, braided funding. I'm excited. Tammy, can you talk to us about anything any really exciting initiatives that's going on around the country with your membership, with post-secondary options, and how we're working, the community colleges are working with our K-12 partners?
Yes, I would just kind of reiterate what Noah mentioned earlier, that our community colleges have over the last, I'd say 4 years, and surely and definitely during the pandemic, have seen an increase in dual enrollments on our campuses. That being said, AACC has been working the past 7 years collaboratively with AASA, the School Superintendents Association, on really trying to build those partnerships between the superintendents and the community college presidents. One of the challenges that we found early on in some of the work that we were doing was that we talk about the transitions in higher education and how our presidents are transitioning out, after 7 years or 10 years. Well, the superintendents transition out at about a rate about every 3 to 5 years. So building those partnerships within the K-12 are really challenging for both secondary and post-secondary. So the work that we've been doing is to bring together groups of community college presidents and groups of their counterparts within their school districts, and really talk about what are some of the opportunities, what are you doing innovatively on your campuses to promote career readiness. And so Dr. Albrecht, he's been one of our participants, and they've been doing some phenomenal work at Gateway. The state of Texas has really been doing some good work around college and career readiness within their dual enrollment and early college high schools. Same with Florida and Colorado. So I would just say, look at what your colleges are doing within your communities, because we're saving parents thousands of dollars every year. Like you mentioned, Dr. Parker, you've got students that are graduating with their associate's degree before they're graduating with their high school diploma. So I think if we can continue the job and do a better job of communicating the benefit of our dual enrollment, as well as our early college high schools, that these first generation students that we're seeing can really benefit from that.
I agree with everything that's been said. Thank you so much for that. Tammy, one thing I would like to add for our project, for example, our chamber president has just been amazing. And just a little bit of a plug that Jason Tisco, I believe, is presenting tomorrow. And I've known Jason for years, but when our superintendent just retired. Well, he's not officially retired, but he's getting ready to retire. And because our work together and really braiding our resources, our funding and our partnership and our commitment to our community, it was important that whoever got that job was committed to our H2C project. And so really bringing your business and industry to the table is also something that I would highly recommend to really sustain these types of programs, whether the president or the superintendent retires. I got another topic that I want to go into, and it's around some research that shows that there's a lot happening with summer melt, where the kids, high school kids, that are looking to enter into the fall into a post-secondary institution, and maybe how they're not ready unless we do some things with them and have some seamless transitions during the summer. I want to add to that, not just summer melt, but maybe I'm going to call it COVID melt. Bob, I'm going to go to you first. What's happening in Massachusetts to really help these kids bridge from the time they leave the high school into they enter into a post-secondary, to make sure they don't lose any gains, and then also speak a little bit about COVID.
Yeah, so historically, we have had a number of programs, probably like a lot of states, but I think one of our signature programs is what we call our STEM Starter Academies. And they focus on building those relationships, particularly for first generation students to enter our public institutions in the Commonwealth. And they really are built on a transition model of engagement of high school students, and then coaching through the summer. Can be inclusive of running courses to ensure that that student is prepared at a college level. So, you know, a student is testing below in math, right? That tends to be where we start from. It can be English too, but certainly math, and how we provide remediation over the summer to make sure that they're fully prepared, maybe award college credits, depending on which program they're in. So that has historically been, for the last 6 or 7 years, been a strategy across our community colleges, our state universities, and our UMass system. During COVID, I think we added to that with 2 other opportunities. One, putting dollars directly out to our higher ed partners to run additional cohorts of students that exceeded the capacity of their STEM Starter Academies, to onboard students. You know, what I would say is our pre-college, college and career advising plus courses earlier, so that they weren't necessarily starting at the same time as all the other traditional students. So very much like a bridge program. And we're continuing to do that this summer. I think the other part that's been important for us is making sure that students are exposed to campus earlier, even during COVID. How do we get students onto campuses? I know as a community college person, Annette, in the past, we've had dialogues about how sad it is, and yet strong of an opportunity of how many students literally get to the door or to the parking lot and just don't have the comfort of taking that next step. They don't see themselves there. So we've really worked to say, how do we make sure that students are getting campus activities, campus experiences in our higher ed partners earlier and earlier in the process, so that even when bridge programs come on, they're not a threatening experience. And then lastly, I think the long-term strategy is our early college program expansion. We're now in 50 high schools. We could be as many as 75 to 100 high schools out of 400 within the next year and a half, I would say. So part of it is to just build in systems that prevent the melt.
Thank you. Noah, first of all, I want to really thank the Biden administration for everything it's done for education during COVID. It's been just amazing, the amount of support that was needed and is there. The administration has just been a friend to education, and I'm very, very grateful for that. What are your thoughts around these bridges between summer and how summer to college, or, you know, I'm going to open it up to you around, there's a lot of conversation, and I know you've led trustees for many, many years around developmental education redesign so that they can enter college. What are your thoughts about the last couple of conversations we've had?
Yes, thank you. Well, let me just say that summer melt, and I think you referred to COVID melt, are, you know, serious concerns. We are focused here at the administration, for example, on the impact that COVID has had in the transition to online for the past 2 years in post-secondary and high schools and middle schools for that matter. And one of the things we're really focused on is the disproportionate effects that had on certain student populations. And by that, I mean students of color, particularly males of color, are struggling the most. And I'm afraid some of the gains we have made in those populations have slipped away now because of COVID and the transition to online. So there's a lot that has to be done there. And just as an aside, certainly the administration is very focused on spending a lot of money to try to address issues of digital equity, digital divide, and more importantly, making sure that our rural and underserved communities have real access to high-speed internet and those resources. But in addition to that, one of the things that Bob said, there is no way of understating the importance of building a college and career ethic in the early grades. And I'm very familiar with the phenomenon of students who even show up at community and technical college campus doorsteps, and then for whatever reason, don't cross in to the campus. It's about self-esteem. It's about believing in themselves. They haven't been prepared. They haven't been shown that they can do the work, that they are there legitimately and should be welcomed with open arms. So a lot of that has to continue in middle and high schools. I think dual enrollment has a lot to play there. Dual enrollment also has a lot to play in terms of reducing the need for remedial education. People need to understand, young people and their parents, what are the basic academic and technical skills required to succeed not only through high school, but on into college. And to the extent that we can focus more on those and figuring out how we can work in greater partnership in supporting students and parents to build that ethic and that understanding, I think we will reduce the need for remedial programs, particularly in math and English. And I'm sure Tammy and Bob and you, Annette, know that for the longest time, remedial education was really a dead-end ticket for a lot of students. Particularly those that didn't have the skills, maybe no fault of their own, to show up at a community college or a college and be told and tested that you cannot do a post-secondary level work, and that they are relegated then to those 16-week-long remedial programs, most of whom never escaped from those. And we lost a whole generation of students because of that. So we can do much better. And I think partnerships, dual enrollment, making sure that we ladder our programs appropriately so that all students arrive ready to learn, believe in themselves and know they can learn is a big part of the solution. And I think we in the administration, are focused like a laser on anything we can do to help build that new world so that we really do get to a seamless education system and reduce the inefficiencies, both academically and financially, so that we can invest all of our dollars in great outcomes for all students.
Thank you, Noah. Tammy, so let me set you up for this next question. And Noah very eloquently referred to AACC, as the member organization of approximately 1,100 community colleges throughout North America, and the 21st Century Commission report that we've done great work with over the last decade or so and beyond. You've really taken a leadership role in guided learning pathways that really deal with how to make sure that students are progressing through those pathways and have the wraparound services they need. Throughout the day, we heard about some of the things that stop out community college students. We heard about SNAP and other things that, I know that potentially a $10 overcharge for a student might be the end of them coming into the door. Talk about AACC's work around pathways and helping our colleges really understand all that our students need to enter a program and be successful, whether it's a one semester certification in welding to a transfer to a university.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say, we've been on this path, working with the pathways. I think this is our 7th year. I mean, we've wrapped up the work with the Gates Foundation. Over this last year, COVID kind of put some of that on the back burner. But ultimately, the goal of the guided pathways is really to get the student from, high school to community college to a job, or high school, community college, four-year university to a job. Ultimately, we want that student to have a job that's going to provide a livable wage for them and their family at the end of the day. So whether that's a one-year certificate or they're building up stackable credentials, that's what we see as a guided pathway. So it's not always a clear pathway that you're going to do your AA degree, transfer to a four-year, and then go on, from there. So there's multiple, I'll say, pathways, for lack of a better word, but there's multiple avenues that our colleges have really taken the pathways work and expanded upon. We're seeing now that they're looking at the guided pathways for, short-term credentials or stackable credentials. They're using some of the pathways models for prior learning assessments. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of innovation being done out there on our campuses. Within the association, we're looking at what that next iteration of guided pathways is going to be. Is it guided pathways, including dual enrollment? Is it guided pathways and workforce and focusing more on the career technical side? We've got institutions around the country that are doing a little bit of both. And so just kind of finding where the next best thing is around guided pathways is where we're at now as an association.
Thank you. So I have, I'm almost wrapping up, but I have a question and we haven't spent much time. I'm going to go to Bob first and hopefully to Noah if we can finish up around Bob, what are you doing to really the complete K through 12 system? I know here in Minnesota, we're using our Perkins funds and, I have thousands of kids, fortunately, now that we're kind of recovering from COVID, in the building, learning about all types of occupational and transfer programs. What are you guys doing in Massachusetts to really get kids in the elementary aware of what those opportunities are and see themselves in it?
Yeah, so two or three things I would point to. As I mentioned, we've implemented MyCap, which is career and academic planning at the high school level, and supported that with professional development in creating frameworks. We are now rolling it out to 6th through 8th grade with the same model of how do we extend down teacher professional development, making college and academic planning not the role solely of a career advisor, but of a community of practice among the school. And then I think the other part is what we've tried to do, as I said, expand pathways to provide as many opportunities as possible for students. And that's the key, is how do you make it accessible to as many as possible?
Right. One last closing question. I think our time is ending, but Noah, could you talk about how important and how the federal government's looking at really getting young students in early ages really interested in some of these occupations?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it goes back to creating linkages with middle, high school, community and technical colleges and beyond to really marshal our resources. And certainly we at the federal level will do all we can to support that, to really build a greater understanding of the pathways that are available or should be available for students to move along the various points so they can get to where they want to go and know that they can get there. One of our colleagues, who's the former chancellor of the Dallas College system, used to always tell me that the biggest challenge that we face in all of these systems is nobody has owned the transition points for these students. So every step along the way of the educational continuum, there is the danger of losing someone. So the goal has to be that we all need to work in partnership to close those transition points and to own up to them and to realize that we all have a role to play. And I think if we can do that, and I'm very encouraged with what I've been seeing in the dual enrollment world and the career and technical space, a lot of the things, frankly, that the keynote speaker Nick from Snap-on was talking about. And Brian Albrecht knows I've had the pleasure of meeting Nick on many occasions and listening to him. And I also am a convert. But if you listen to what he's saying, fundamentally, he's talking about creating the culture necessary that not only take away those transition points, but to really help people move into meaningful work with dignity and a living wage, and to feel that they are contributing. And that's just all we need to do at whatever level we're trying to do it. And I think this administration not only understands that, but we certainly want to walk in lockstep with all of the systems and all of the sectors that are willing to put the shoulder to the wheel and achieve that new world.
Thank you. I couldn't think of a better way to end. I want to thank you, Tammy, Bob, Noah, for your contributions. This has been outstanding, and Nick got us in the mood, and about being American, and it is just exciting to know the potentials. And Leo, I'm just forever indebted to, and Brian for helping us create the CCD to bring us all together and continue these conversations. So with that, I believe our time is over, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Yep. Thank you, Annette. The only thing I regret is that we're not in person, so you could hear the applause of everyone that's on the call today. But please know it's heartfelt, our appreciation. Tammy, Bob, and Noah, thanks again for the insight. I could feel a lot of those touch points that you were commenting on how we can strengthen our work here at our college. So I'm sure that resonated across the nation. So really value your time. And Annette, a very, very big thank you for your leadership at South Central, but also as in our nation, serving in the President's Advisory Council, the American Association of Community Colleges, and the amazing work that you do to help build awareness, and of course, your support for the CCD. So thanks to everyone on